Friday, last time till Broadway.
Last time till Broadway.
How are you?
I'm good.
Awesome.
As good as I can be. So
yeah, it's
I am.
Beautiful day here. How is it out there in Hawaii?
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Very
good to hear.
Inside. You can't. There's no light in here, but
yeah.
I'm sure it's great out there. I was out there a few minutes ago.
Awesome. So yeah, let's talk about the album. Give me the broad overview. What's the idea going on here?
Well, it's my third album.
Yeah.
I'm 17.
Nice.
And
awesome.
What happened, I think if we start at my last album, Into FM, was very this album is like a shift in my writing style, and I ended up it was actually written straight after moving out of our house in Illinois. At least like most of the songs like came out of this place of uncertainty. And I demoed a lot of those songs while I was in Morrison, Illinois.
Okay.
And it was when my writing became more melodic, and nice. I knew, and the songs were just coming to me. Every song on this album was written in like 15 minutes or less.
That's great.
So we moved out here, and it seems to me to paint a picture of this uprooting.
Yeah.
To come out here, I wrote, and but it's a rock and roll record.
Yeah.
I recorded everything myself.
Nice.
All the instruments. I play everything. I have on all three of my albums, and so self-produced. It was recorded here in the shed.
Mm-hmm.
We call it the shed.
Totally.
And and then mixed by Stefan in Portland.
Yeah.
And now it's being released, and that's crazy to me. I've been working on it for like 2 years.
Wow. So that's honestly my track record. 2 years is a pretty good turnaround. So, and at 17, having 3 albums out, that's very good. You should be proud of yourself. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, and it sounds good. Let's talk about a little bit of. So you've got 2 singles. First one, Ironclad, dropped on April 10th. Let's talk about that a little bit. You've got a video for that. Yeah,
we recorded that video. Was directed by Faith September, my sister, who just gave me a pep talk before this. Actually,
very cool.
So she basically just filmed our trip around the road to Hana on Maui, nice. And so we just kind of spent a day on the road and just filmed it, because what I wanted to do with that video is convey like this celebration of life sort of atmosphere, because what I always felt was that even though the song was kind of came from a bit of a depressing place, it was a hopeful, like, sort of celebration sort of song. And I think she did a good job of capturing that with the totally. And the live performance clip at the end and everything. It kind of is it kind of marks the journey that we took. And so it was a lot of fun to make, and we got some local businesses involved in that, and we were gonna get people to like sing along at the end, like just like people on the like tourists and stuff, but it was slow and everybody was in a bad mood that day because it was rainy. But we were able to live in our own little world and make that happen. But
that's cool.
Yeah, I remember that song just falling out of the sky at midnight one time, and it was totally different, way more personal than most of my previous writing. And then I was really self-conscious about it, and I went and debuted it at an open mic that week in Rock Island at Cool Beans coffee shop, and and people loved it, and I was like, okay, this is a new direction for me, and it kind of started to shape a whole new path for me. So it was really, really interesting, pivotal song. And yeah, it's probably like, it's in my top 5 that I've ever written, I think. For me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think you touched on something that I find is very true. You felt self-conscious about it, and that's the right place to be. If you feel comfortable with the song you're about to release into the world, chances are you haven't been honest enough, and people aren't going to connect with it. So I think
that's interesting.
You went somewhere that was kind of uncomfortable. You stuck to your guns, and it turned out to be one of your favorite songs that you've written. So there's something there.
It's always gotten a good reaction, and to do like the live sing along at the end connects with, like, really helps connect with audiences. I think, and so it's a great moment, not only just to hear a crowd singing your music back when they've never heard it before, you know, at open mics and stuff, but the feeling of connection and it's a really profound moment, I feel. And that's the kind of thing, like, while we're in quarantine, that's the kind of thing I think about and just miss.
Totally. Yeah, totally. As a musician, it's really hard to have to find a new way of expressing yourself and getting that same kind of high and connection.
So
it's been a challenge.
I had just started to get like regular gigs on Maui, like finally. Wow. And then like everything got canceled in like the span of 2 days.
Oh my gosh.
And then so I was just like, oh, what am I gonna do? But then my dad and I we kind of just threw ourselves straight into this project. He had this idea. He's like, we're gonna record a whole album in 1 week. And because we kind of had like the song ideas together, but we've never finished something together, you know. And so right at the beginning of this, at the end of March, we recorded an album that we called Good Quarantivening.
Very nice.
The idea was to give people something in this and in this time that could actually be remembered, and to be like songs that could be connected with people, instead of just like doing live streams, which I do live streams too.
Yeah, totally.
I ended up being so proud of that album. Like and we haven't officially released it yet, but we did a Google, we basically put a Google Drive link out and just gave it to people for donation, you know. But it really I didn't expect to be so happy with it. Like it didn't feel to me like we made it in a week at the end. Like I keep listening to it, like it was a moment. It was such a great creative time, but then I kind of burnt myself out, and I haven't really done anything since.
Oh yeah, sure. No, I get that for sure. I think that you're in a week recording something, you're kind of capturing lightning in a bottle. And honestly, I found more success with just leaving some things on the table and just going with it than trying to make sure everything's perfect. I relate it to when I talk to people about this. I say it's like you're holding a candy bar in your hands. The longer that you hold it, the more chocolate you're going to get on your hands, the less enjoyable it's going to be. So just like get it and put it out there. And you're usually going to be happier with that result than if you just labor over it for years and years.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I've been thinking about it a lot lately, actually. And I know on all 3 of my records, there's parts that I'm like, yeah, maybe I could have redone that, but it doesn't really matter in the end if the overall if you're happy with the overall feeling of it, then why keep messing with it?
Yeah, exactly. You know? It's a moment in time, and you're capturing something, and you don't have to answer for it. You know, in a few years, you can look back and remember what you were doing, and there's something beautiful to that on its own. It's not by nature a living document. You know, it's a photograph. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and definitely. Then the songs don't have to end there. Yeah, you know, that's the beautiful thing about it.
Totally,
they can change in your live performances. It's not done just because you put it out on a record.
Yeah, that's the weird relationship. Once you've recorded something and then you go perform it live, it always changes, and then you think, oh man, it'd be cool to have had this on the record, because you fall in love with it in a different way. But that's it's its own little treat, you know, for for live performances, and maybe you record it a live version. But
yeah, that's what makes it special. That's
totally.
There's so many great live albums that have also like captured those like changes. Like one of my favorite bands is U2, one of my biggest influences, and
Nice.
So Where the Streets Have No Name is such an iconic moment, but then they went and changed the arrangement and have done it like that ever since. As soon as the Joshua Tree tour, started, they had this new arrangement that was better for live performance, but the studio recording is still there and it's still iconic,
Yeah.
And so there's stuff like that, and there's bands like, I mean, who cares about the studio version of Riding the Storm Out by REO Speedwagon?
Exactly.
We want to hear the You Get What You Play For version.
Yeah, definitely. There's a handful of songs where you can think about like the live version is way better than the studio version. And
I Want You to Want Me by Cheap Trick.
Yeah, totally. Nobody knows the studio version of a lot of these songs. Yeah. So yeah, totally. I think that's a good way of doing it. And I believe that the things that we're forced to adapt to in this situation that we're in right now should be things that pay off long term. So
yeah,
I'm sure you learned things from, and will continue to, from the things that you're doing while you're stuck inside. And hopefully, as we get past this, those will be things you'll be able to carry on and add to your arsenal of things that you can pull out and do something cool with.
Yeah, totally. It's productive, even if it doesn't feel productive. Something's going on.
Definitely. Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of influences. Let's talk about, I always like to get somebody's early story. What took you from being a kid into somebody who loved music or wanted to do it as, something more than just for fun?
Well, my family's extremely musical.
Cool.
Like, as I said, me and Dad have recorded together for years. So he's a drummer primarily, and I was playing drums by the age of 2.
Nice.
I would sit. I've been told when I was not even 1 yet, Dad would watch. It was usually either Russian Rio or Paul McCartney back in the U.S.
Cool.
These are just concert films, and I would sit there and I watch and go like that to the beat, like
yeah.
And Dad goes, he was always like, "Chrissy, look at this." So it was it seemed to just come to me, and so I always loved it. My earliest influences were it was like classic rock radio, it's kind of standard stuff. Dad was in the Funnies classic rock cover band.
Nice.
And so it was that, and by the time I was like 8, it had primarily been Muse, Jars of Clay, and the Killers. And those were just kind of the bands that were around all the time that I really connected with. So so I had so my connection was always with rock. But as a kid, I went through all kinds of phases, like different, played all the sports, and got into I had my superhero phase, my firefighter phase, like all the stuff you do as a kid. But I remember in 6th grade when I had started to actually write music. Actually, like when I was little, I used to like make up songs, and I did these living room concerts with for my family, and and I remember a couple of those songs. That's how much I did this. But I started like legitimately kind of writing stuff in 2014 when I was 11, and
cool.
and the first couple were called Bring Back America, Illusion of Paradise, very, very Muse inspired apocalyptic kind of stuff. And then and so even though those weren't good, that was around the time that I knew that it was what I wanted to do, that it was the only thing that had always been there. It was the only thing that was always consistent with me. And
sure.
so then it was a matter of from that point it's always just been a matter of figuring out how to do it, you know.
Yeah.
And by the end of 7th grade, not the end of 7th grade, but around that time, me and my friend, a friend named Christian Kraft, he wrote this set of lyrics to a song called Faulty Wiring. And I'd been recording like my own stuff, but none of it was good. I was just like doing all these demos and stuff, but I was already into multi-tracking.
Oh, cool.
So I
Cool.
kind of just started with it, you know, and
Yeah.
I started in the studio, and we wrote this song called Faulty Wiring together, which ended up being the opening song on my first album, Core Processing. And then it just started to happen for me. Like, then that was when I felt like I was writing songs. But then
Nice.
A bunch of that first album just kind of came to me. And then I recorded that like fall 2016. And so I was kind of like already on my way at that point. And I started playing out with my dad. We did this duo thing. And so I was already so confident, or I was already so sure that's what I wanted to do early on. Yeah. And that was around the time then. And when I got into Rush, that changed things. And then when I got into the Beatles, I said a few days ago, I was like, when I got into the Beatles, that was when I felt like it was a thing. Like, I felt like I had rounded things out a bit, and that was when I recorded the first album, and from there was no turning back. I guess.
Yeah.
And that, so I just knew it was always there. And there's just it's been what now 5-6 years since anything else even interested me.
Yeah.
The idea of doing anything else makes me want to throw up.
Yeah. Definitely.
that sort of like dedication.
Yeah.
I wish I had the work ethic to match, you know, but
yeah, I mean that you've found something that's a passion, and so yeah, I mean you've got to pursue those things, because you can fake it for a long time doing other things, but eventually there's going to come a day where you can't fake it anymore. So
yeah,
the longest you can stick with something that you're passionate about, and that's a place to be. You'll figure out the details as you go along.
Right.
So yeah, you were talking about the Beatles. I like to dive deep. That's what I do. I am an unabashed nerd. So I picked up on Mellotron in Hey Wait. So that's a Beatles reference right there.
Right. I've been using Mellotron a lot lately. Like
cool.
I've been using it as early as the first album, but I mean it's all just samples. But
yeah.
But lately, in fact, I've been putting together keyboard patches like for live performance, because I want to put together a band when this is over, because I've never put together a band behind me. It's always I've always done a solo thing, which works. It works out well.
Sure.
But I really do want to play with a band. So I've been doing these patches, and I realized that I use like 5 different keyboard sounds, but they're all just in different combinations. But
nice.
I've been playing Mellotron a lot. It's just such a cool sound, and it's like it's not trying to be strings, you know. So right. I usually, when I would put where I hear strings, I usually just go to Mellotron, because then it's like that Led Zeppelin rain song thing, you know.
Yeah.
And
totally.
It's just a sound that I really like, that gives it this. It's got like a little bit of a medieval sound to it, but it's like classic, you know. It's I just love it.
Sweet. Yeah. So on a couple of the tracks, there's some. So overall, I would say this album feels like, kind of like you were saying, like it's a rock album, like classic rock. You know, some of those bands that you referenced. But then there's a few tracks where there's like some predominantly electronic elements.
Yeah.
So what's the combination of that like for you when you're writing?
It's always been for me. I don't know. well, I think I had to realize it along the way, but it's kind of always been for me a mix of wanting to draw from everything.
Sure.
Even though I don't want to listen to everything, I want to draw
Mhm.
from everything.
Yeah.
And so I think the electronic element sort of comes from Muse, Imagine Dragons. I like Panic at the Disco, and um, there's some U2, you know, and there's some like just all kinds of stuff. I think it's a cool sound. It's a cool like cold element and like a this layer. It
Mhm.
creates an atmosphere, you know, to do
Yeah.
this electronic thing. And Lose You was, I wanted to just like dive deep into that for one song, you know.
Totally.
On
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
because I did it a couple times on Into FM, but I wanted to just kind of concentrate that energy into one part of this album.
Yeah.
And then Hey Wait has a little bit of it. I
Hmm.
think that one's kind of interesting, I think, because it was gonna be like just acoustic, and then once the Mellotron came in, though, it kind of had this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
But all kinds of sounds interest me, and I find that sometimes the music that I seem to really connect with has always been stuff that's a little spacier, like a
Yeah.
little more. I mean, I connect with all kinds of stuff, but the music that can really make me zone in and just get lost
Hmm.
is a little, as you know, spacier, and it has these electronic elements and these sort of minimalist guitar sort of
Yeah.
things.
Definitely.
And so that's where it comes from. I want to do I've always wanted to do stuff like that. Like I want to make a record that makes me feel like the long fall back to earth by Jars of Clay makes me feel. Like
Nice.
stuff, just little things like that. But yeah, I just like bringing in anything I can, and without it not being rock anymore.
Yeah. 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 For sure.
Because
Yeah.
that's just what I love is you know, rock and roll is where my heart's always been at, I guess.
Hmm.
But I've always had a gripe with anybody that's like, there's no good new music. You know, I
Hmm.
don't. I've never. I mean, I used to kind of feel that way. I felt that way when I was like 11. That's how weird
Sure.
I was.
Yeah.
But it was like, but
Yes.
so, but I never. It always made me mad when people would like shun out new sounds. People, you know,
Mhm.
and any kind of, you know, electronic element in music. I was just like, why? Why do you have
Yeah.
to get rid of the tools that we have, the elements that we now have? Like
Yeah.
any of it can be used.
Definitely. Yeah.
And
And honestly, most of the people who end up with staying power in a genre of music have been people who kind of pushed things or incorporated other styles. And you know, at the time was weird and it wasn't very popular. But yeah, I mean, you've got to follow your own true north and your compass. And what I like to think, like if I'm not digging it, I wouldn't expect anybody else to as well, you know.
yeah,
So you have to follow that which makes you excited about the song.
yeah.
So what you said with this album, most of the songs kind of came to you like in one sitting, at least the majority of it, I'm assuming. What was the writing process like on this, and how did that differ, if at all, from the other stuff you'd written prior to this album?
I think what I used to do, how the first two albums were sort of written. I mean, it varies. Obviously, it always varies from
Mhm.
song to song, no matter what kind of style you're writing in. But what I did a lot was I sort of just came up with a guitar idea. Usually, I would have a chorus, and that's
Mhm.
why I think a lot of the choruses on the first two records were just like repeating phrase choruses, you
Sure.
know, which is definitely fine, you know, and I
Hmm.
love plenty of stuff like that.
Hmm.
But there's no problem with that, and there's definitely no problem with using syllables in your hooks. I hear people go like, "Oh, it's so lazy," but it's like it's not lazy. If you ever heard "Hey Jude," you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah, it's true.
but 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 that's kind of what I used to do. And then I would just kind of write the lyrics in class at
Mm.
school. Like I
Mhm.
wrote a lot of songs in Mrs. Beck's study hall, you know, like, and then I just kind of come back and work it out because I just had the guitar idea. I'd write the song separately, like
Yeah, yeah.
just go back and forth. And so I wrote a lot of songs in that vein. And then all of a sudden with Ironclad, right after we moved and we were staying in a different house for a little bit,
Uh-huh.
I started, and I don't think, it's not that I hadn't done it before, but I started really just sitting there and just letting the song happen
Mhm.
while playing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And that's when it ended up getting a little more melodic and getting the
Sure.
choruses became more wordy.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess.
Definitely.
But one of my the reason that I say that all these songs just came to me is because that's how I have sort of narrowed down the songs for this album. There could have been 30 songs, you know, like
Sure.
I decided so somewhere along the line that the songs that just come to me are the good ones.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
just sort of started abandoning songs that didn't work. You know, if they
Yeah.
didn't work right away, I was just like, get out of here.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of came down to between that and what I would between that and what went over well with audiences, because I was playing these songs
Sure. That's awesome.
because the first two albums I made entirely in the studio without playing these songs live at all, and so it was a totally new element.
Hmm.
So between those two factors, I narrowed it down to this more focused work than the first two, I
Yeah.
think. And so each song just sort of came. The opener, Last Time Till Broadway, as kind of movementy as it is, there's a lot, you know, it
Yeah.
that one started out, I mean, Last Time Till Broadway was an inside joke that that me and a friend started at the musical I was in freshman year. Like the last
Nice.
day of the musical, we started going Last Time Till Broadway because
That's awesome.
no, she was graduating. I
Oh,
didn't know I
okay.
was moving yet.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So so it started as an inside joke, and I was just sitting there one night and it just popped in my head and it just happened. You know,
Yeah.
and I was as shocked as anybody. That's the thing. Whenever I write these songs, I'm as shocked as anybody, and that's why, like, when I feel like when I talk about them, I almost don't feel like I did it. So I
Yeah, yeah.
get so like if you're so some people will hear the way I talk about my songs and be like, well, that's a little egotistical, but it's because I legitimately, like, I feel like they come from somewhere else.
Yeah. No,
And
that's the way to. I think you just at a certain point you have to just not really care what people are going to think about how you present it. If people see that you're excited about the thing that you've done, there's nothing more infectious than that genuine excitement. And again, if you're not digging on the music in the first place, it's a little bit presumptuous to expect somebody else to like it.
yeah,
You know,
I
there's a joke by Childish Gambino, or Donald Glover, where he says, there's an old one going way back with stand up, but he says, why is it that way with creative people that you can't enjoy your own product? Whereas you wouldn't tell a sandwich maker that, you know, he was
oh
stuck
yeah,
up for liking his
Donald
own
Glover.
sandwich. Yeah.
Right. I love that special.
Yes. So same thing.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. Like
Yeah.
if you work at Subway or something, you come home and make yourself a sandwich. No one's gonna be like, "Oh, getting a little bit conceited."
Exactly.
But I literally work at Subway. So
Nice. Perfect. So you actually have both of these realities.
So I have both. But yeah, I mean that's how it is. I've never, if I don't like the song, there's no reason for me to present it to other people. Like,
yeah, totally.
So that's where I narrow it down. I know the songs that I like and other
Mhm.
people like, and like, because I have kind of a circle that, you know, hear the stuff that I write as I write it, you know, just a few people, and the
Mhm.
stuff that everybody likes has the best chance of succeeding. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So even if
That's
I
cool.
like something but nobody else is really connecting with it, I'm like, well,
Yeah.
then that means it's for me. You know?
Yeah.
But,
Well, that's cool. It shows a lot of growth to be able to, you know, set yourself aside and in a certain respect, especially when it comes to writing. Like, I talk about this process when it comes to creative stuff, not in a literal sense. I want to make this clear, but I talk about it as like murdering your children. You know, you have this idea that comes to you and you
yeah,
love it and you want to develop it and nurture it, but at a certain point, like you have to be willing to murder that child and let it grow, you know, into what it's actually supposed to be, not what
yeah,
you want it to be. Maybe murdering
totally.
your child's a bad way of saying it, but
But I
that's what it.
totally get it, because
Yes.
the thing is, to a non-artist, that sounds like, huh? You know,
Yes.
what kind of a thought is that? But that's
Yeah.
exactly how it feels. Like
Yeah.
it's almost too accurate.
It is.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, sometimes I remember how disappointed I was when there's a couple of songs that got cut from Last Time Till Broadway.
Mm.
Like there was like Your Eyes and Plan's actually going to be on the next record though.
Sure.
I'm not giving up on that just yet. But but
Needs more time.
there are a few songs that I played live and like just flat, you know,
Yeah.
just totally went flat with people, and I was just like,
Hmm.
dang
Yep.
it. You know,
Yep.
because there's no, yeah, if people aren't gonna like it, why let it take space on the record?
Yeah.
You know, you can still have that song, you can still be happy that you wrote it, you know, you don't,
Hmm.
but yeah, you don't have to. The records you put out are just what you want to share with people. It
Yeah.
doesn't. So yeah, you should. What I want to do at least is make sure that they're more for the people. I already created the art. I already have
Yeah.
that satisfaction, you know.
Yeah.
So it's fun because it's like that's not just trying to please people. I think that's what
Yeah.
a record is.
Yeah.
That's what you're sharing with people. Is you
Totally.
can write forever for
Yeah.
yourself, and some people are satisfied doing that. I'm
Yeah.
not. But yeah, it comes down to that sometimes, and I'm just glad I'm in control of what songs I have to cut at least.
Hmm. Yeah.
um,
Totally. Yeah.
so
That's the beauty of you know, there's a lot of imperfections and you know, bad sides to where we're at with things, but you know, some of the beauty is that it's incredibly accessible for the artist to have complete control over their,
yeah,
you know, creative public persona. And you know, like you were saying, from when you were 11 or so, having multi-track access, you know, which is something that even if you had been really hitting it hard as a professional musician for a few years, you still may not have the ability to do anything more than a 4-track, you know, for
right.
a long
Uh,
time. So yeah, it's plus and minuses for sure. It's a different world, even just in the amount of time that I've been making music.
yeah, totally.
I, I've had to really like deliberately try to keep on top of things because it
Yeah, it's moving so
never
quick.
used to be this way. You know, putting I probably sound like an old person, but putting stuff up
No,
on
I
a
totally
streaming
get it.
platform it's crazy. I never thought that would be what was going to happen next. You know, so
Right.
yeah, it's different, but things like that are incredibly cool. The fact that we can talk right now, 5 time zones away from each other,
Right.
that's awesome. And you're getting to handle not only your own production of your album, but also your own PR and everything. So
Yeah.
that's
Granted,
one
I
of the
could
really cool
use
things.
somebody else doing my PR.
Sure, fair enough.
But
But you're
that's
the
the thing.
last say.
It's like I'd rather have a small team of my own people
Hmm.
than be on something bigger. You know,
Yeah.
and then like just I'd kind of rather remain independent unless I was getting
Hmm.
like a big deal.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I
totally.
mean?
And you're able to love all of the songs that you put into public, even if
Yeah,
there are some you leave off that you love.
yeah,
You know, you get to say, yeah, I'm proud of this, and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's really cool.
I like not having to answer to anybody,
Yeah.
except for the
Definitely.
people that I want to answer to, because
Yeah, yeah,
that's a thing too. Um,
yeah.
I because in the end, I want to make albums that I want to make, period.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
even though you have to let the music take control of itself rather than
Mhm.
having, a bunch of hands on it. I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes you need a bunch of hands on something. I don't know. You can approach it in so many different ways. This is just what I prefer to do,
Yeah.
at least what I've done so far.
Mhm.
And I said yesterday, I actually was at work and I was like, it's so slow right now, so I'm just listening to music in
Yeah.
the back. And so I'm just glad I'm raking in, $45 a
Oh,
week doing the
yeah,
one
yeah.
shift.
Totally. Could be worse.
It could be worse, exactly.
Yes.
So I told Dad, I was like, I want to make. I literally texted Dad. I never text Dad, but I go, I want to make a record that is just right in the middle of all four Jellyfish and Owsley albums. so,
Nice.
so there's both just totally forgotten acts,
Uh-huh.
and but that's what I've been obsessed with lately. It just happens to be Jellyfish and Owsley, and
Nice.
um, and I'm listening to this. I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to
Yeah.
make these records, even though they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
um, but then I have been thinking a lot in the last few days, just how many, like, where am I drawing all my influences from? Like, I don't even know.
mhm.
Some
Mhm.
it gets wider and wider all the time.
Yeah.
Um, and then I see my mind is always on the next record. Like,
Mhm.
even right now, promoting Last Time Till Broadway has been a chore for me.
Mhm.
I mean, I've barely done anything. That's how because my mind is all the way over there. That's why I
Oh
need
yeah.
somebody else for my promo,
Yeah, yeah.
which I'm working on.
Very good.
But last night I was literally like, I was going through all my new stuff and trying to figure out what's the next record I'm going to make. And like you said, records are like a snapshot, or a snapshot in time. And
Yes.
and what I realized is not every album has to sound like everything that you do.
Totally.
Like,
Yeah.
that's something I've been thinking about. What I kind of would like to do. I want to make like straight blues rock records,
Uh-huh.
and then make a pop album, and then make very like kind of like David Bowie did,
Yeah, yeah.
or like Queen. You listen to
Mhm.
Queen, it's just like all over the map. You know,
Yeah.
I've never so I never want to be afraid to just make what I want to make at that time. So
Mhm.
I know that every record's going to be different.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's just what I don't, if I'm going to get any artistic fulfillment out of it, I don't want to do the same thing forever.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that sounds like torture. I mean, there may be some people that's what they want to do, like Breaking Benjamin. I mean, they've been making the same album for the last 20 years, but maybe they love it. I don't know.
Maybe they like doing it. You
Yeah,
don't know.
not nothing. I mean, if you're into that note, nothing against that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think one of the biggest traps that artists can get stuck in is like just always looking in the rear view, or paying too much attention to like what their fans think about what they're doing.
Yeah.
You can't make everybody happy all the time, and if somebody really liked your old stuff, they can listen to your old
They
stuff,
can still listen to
but
it. Exactly.
this is where you're at today. And when you develop that true voice of whatever your voice is, when you find that, people will just naturally be attracted to that because it feels authentic. So yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a few artists that have made very successful careers just pursuing their own voice, whatever that looks like. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe it's not anything like your old album, but that's where they're at that day, and maybe they're with a certain band, and that band brings out certain tendencies in their writing. And I mean, it's still a great album. That that's part of the beauty of it. Taking that picture is, that's a day or a series of days, and it was just a moment in time. And there's some people that they do that and they're like, you know what, that actually really sucked, and that's fine. It's in the past. I really respect that. To be able to just
Yeah,
leave it, move on.
I already did that. That was where I was at.
Yeah.
You don't think about like who you were as a person 4 years ago and go, yeah,
Totally.
that was a better person,
Yeah,
or
hopefully.
like that was, or I'd rather be who I used to be. Like
Yeah.
if you are thinking like that, that's probably incredibly toxic. But
Definitely.
it's like you should be just on. You shouldn't be thinking about what you did back then, except for you can take the good parts of the past with you, if you want. It's whatever.
Yeah. Totally. So
yeah.
yeah. You're talking about like some of the things that you want to do in the future, and you're talking more broadly like genre wise, but based on your experience writing and recording on this album, and considering what you've done in the past, is there anything that you wanted to do now that you weren't quite able to accomplish, or something that kind of excited you and you're looking forward to being able to cross that bridge in the future, whether it be on a technical side for recording or songwriting ideas to explore?
I think, well, I'm always thinking about all kinds of different things I could do.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this record is nowhere near what I planned.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and that's fine, because now I realize what I planned probably sucked. So, I remember wanting to have probably a much more broader scope of genre on this album, but it just didn't happen that way. Like it didn't. What I actually kind of learned through the process is to let the song take it, and what's important is to put out good music.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was kind of confused by the question, honestly.
No worries. We'll move right along.
But, I do think I want to make it cleaner. I wanted to make this album cleaner. Like, I know there's when I let Stefan mix it, not let Stefan mix it. I don't know what that means. when I finally let it out of my own hands, and gave it to him, what came back was a totally different album. And we did kind of we did have to sort of like find a middle ground from there. I'm really happy with where it turned out. But what I originally heard isn't necessarily what's there. But
part of letting it go into the world and into somebody else's hands. It's a difficult thing to even just to collaborate with somebody. But what would you say that the transition, is it just different, or are you happier with it, or are there some things that you kind of wished you could have changed there?
I think what it usually comes down to is that there's things that I wouldn't have done. There's things that maybe if I had more of a direct hands-on approach to it, then wouldn't be there, stuff like that. But then there's stuff that makes the song, like so it evens out, and the transit, it's not always easy to get to that point where everybody's happy with it. It wasn't easy on this record, honestly. I know Stefan's listening, but he knows it wasn't easy. So, to get to that middle ground, it's not easy to do, but you can't usually, if all goes well, you come out of it happier with it than you could have thought, and I know there, like I said earlier, there's plenty of stuff I would change on these 3 albums if I did it now, but I didn't do it now. I did. I think there's just little things, like songs I would have cleaned up maybe if I had more. This album was kind of recorded very sparsely, and whereas in 2FM I recorded in like 3 weeks.
Okay.
Like that last, it was totally different. I had demoed for a long time, but then I got in the studio. I did all the final recordings like in a set period of time. And on this,
Nice.
but on this one, it was a lot more sparse. And I didn't feel like particularly motivated
Yeah.
for a period of time during this. It was just like bursts, you know?
Yeah.
And so what it ended up being is that it didn't feel all that focused. And I felt like there were parts that because it was such like a broad, like Who Hurt You, parts of that were recorded back in Morrison, you know, like 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like, it just like goes so far. It's such a wide range that by the end of it, there was stuff that I recorded at the beginning that I was like, maybe I should redo that. But then I was just like, no. Because actually what happened is then we moved again and we didn't have a studio.
Okay.
So I actually couldn't fit. To be completely honest, I didn't finish the album.
Okay.
Like I just decided this is the album now.
Nice.
Because there was another song that was supposed to go on it, which is gonna be on the record. There were parts of it, there was vocal tracks I was gonna redo, you know, just all kinds of stuff like that. But I just have to let it go. This is dragged on too long.
Yeah.
And then I ended up just being happier with it, just letting it out. Because it's got to
really
be done sometime.
Yep.
At that point, we had our microphones stolen, like all of our microphones, for $4,000. They were right after we moved in. They were all in a suitcase, and they broke into this place and stole that suitcase and a change box. Nothing else. It was weird. And they haven't been caught. There was a whole thing. I'm mad at the police, but that's fine. So once those mics were stolen, I was like, I'm not going to be able to finish this record. Maybe it was meant to happen. Here it is. We've managed to rebuild our studio through we had a GoFundMe, and the generosity of people just astounds me. And so we have managed to get back to a working state. But yeah, I was at a point where I had to either be done with the record or not finish it for like another 6 months.
Yeah, totally.
So
it sounds...
life affects everything.
Oh yeah.
Life affects the art, and I mean the album has been defined by that. In my mind, because it was made over the course of living in like 6 different places, and so it's a theme almost on even lyrically. If your art doesn't reflect life, then what is it doing? What's the point in creating it if it doesn't relate to things, unless the point of creating it is to not relate to things. Like it's like sort of artistic or satirical sort of stuff. I do some of that too.
And as a musicians, we often think about like on a songwriting level, like reflecting life in the lyrics or in the mood that we set with the song, but in almost on a meta level, like the existence of the album and the way that it exists was influenced by these transitions that you went through. And that's something that we often don't stop and recognize, either as a listener or as a creator. But that it's something really cool. You know, you'll be able to look back at this recording and remember the things that influenced it directly and indirectly. And, you know, that's what that album means for you. And the next one means something different.
Each one's something.
Totally. So you were recording and producing all of this on your own. It sounds like you did everything on that end. Have you in the past, or have you considered in the future working more directly in collaboration with partners, either on a production side or a writing side?
I have, because I start, and I don't know if it's gonna, on this 4th record, when I start recording it, I am planning to, like, I want to do a little more collaboration in the future. It's just gonna kind of be a gradual thing, probably, you know. but yeah, I want to work with other people. What I've always found is that I work best one-on-one, like period.
Yeah.
As who I am as a person, I just work best
Sure.
one-on-one with people.
Yeah.
And down to like hangouts when I was little, it was always obvious,
Yeah.
I can't deal with groups, but
Yeah.
but
Totally.
so I've worked in a bunch of different like duos. Like I've worked with my friend Zach Burke, who co-wrote "Who Hurt You," and
Okay.
we've worked on some of his stuff together, and we might make a record at some point.
Yeah, very cool.
But so there's like that one. Me and my dad have worked together. Me and my sister have worked together. It, but so I like sort of gravitating towards one other person that I feel like I can really work with. Is
Yeah.
what I tend to do.
Yeah, those are cool.
But I like, now I'm thinking about bringing in more voices on this next record. More like I have some different choir ideas that where I might actually, instead of doing it myself like I always have, which is like a thing that I do, but kind of a thing in the music. But I want to start bringing people in. I actually have this there. I've had this arrangement of Hallelujah for 3 years that I want to finally put down. That I want to do an actual choir on it, like have a group of people. I think would do it.
Yeah.
But it would probably just be like four people all singing different parts and like layering,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But it's just coming down to I do want to put more people on my records.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I used to not want to at all.
Yeah, totally. It's hard to give up that complete control, knowing what your vision is. And learning to trust that process, and that usually you're happier after collaborating, but it's cool to have the option to do what you want to do.
Yeah, so it's just, I mean, honestly, what made me record on my own is that nobody else played. I not only, I mean, just the fact of the matter is I've always been ahead, of people my age. I mean, particularly musically. I was always weird. Like I was always like moved on from things quicker than everybody else, and it wasn't easy either. But so the only option really sometimes is just to do it yourself. And since I kind of was playing everything by that time, it was a totally valid option for me. But I've always wanted, if I had the right group of people, then of course I would want to be in a band. But it's only, but it's like, I don't want to work with people for the sake of working with people. I only want to work with them if I feel like they can bring something to it that I can't. I mean, anybody can, but like something that I really want. The music holds the highest value. If someone can benefit the music, I want to work with them.
Yeah, definitely. The best relationships come from working with somebody who's not afraid to tell you their true opinion, and that works on a production level, it works on a collaboration songwriting level. It's the whole reason you have a producer, is to tell you the things that you don't necessarily want to hear.
Exactly.
And to benefit things. You've got this 5-6 minute long masterpiece, and you're in love with it, and they say, hey, it's too long, and you want to punch them. But in the long term, you look back and you think, yeah, this is actually something I'm a little bit prouder of. So it's a totally different procedure, totally different process. But I mean, working on your own, there's perks to that. Working with other people, there's definitely benefits. But like you said, that needs to be that trust built in of knowing that they're benefiting the song overall, and they're focused on that end product, just like you are. Bring something different to the table.
Totally.
But yeah, there's the 3 tenets that I feel develop kind of the fast track to developing a musician, and one is obviously time spent in what we call the woodshed practicing. Just you got to. The other one is spending time in the studio, like what you're doing, multi-track recording. It shines a magnifying glass on your playing and forces you to examine that, and also makes you think about arrangement in a different way. And then the third is, you know, performing live in front of people, sometimes solo, but performing with others in a live situation definitely changes your focus. But those three things together, which it seems like you're doing each of those things, that, you know, that pays off a ton. So
yeah, I always want to be doing things. I mean, like, period. But I think my perspective did change, because back last summer I finally did get to play with a band for the first time, like properly. It was stuff that we were writing together, me and Dad and Stephen Holt, and then we had a 4-piece band, and we did a couple gigs. I loved the material. It was mostly Steven's stuff that we had sort of like arranged together, and that was the first experience that I got just being in a band, like live. You know, it was the first time I hadn't played with tracks, basically. You know, and the freedom of that, and the power of knowing that the four of you are creating this music live, just changed everything for me. And so now I'm working on arranging things for a 4-piece band, my own stuff, and I know I've got the people that could do it. But so even though I love doing stuff, I love doing my solo thing, it's missing the band. And I want that so bad now, especially like you get put in quarantine, you realize how much you really want it.
Yeah, totally.
That's just where my mind's at.
It becomes a bit of a feedback loop, you know, when you're performing out, especially with a band, and thinking about the arrangement and the performance level of, you know, you want something that's interesting to each performer, but not so challenging that they're not interacting, you know. That becomes kind of this cycle of you play live, and then you go back to the writing room, and you're thinking about everything differently than, you know, before you started performing it. So yeah, that's really cool. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on regarding your album, or anything you wanted to share?
Well, I think it's a good album.
No, that's great.
I'd like people to know that I think it's good. You don't have to think it's good.
No. I definitely would agree with that. Definitely check it out. Where is the best place for people to check that out on Friday?
Well, the best place is to message me and order a copy.
There you go. Fair enough.
But no, you can listen to it anywhere: Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, whatever.
Cool. Very cool.
And, I mean, I don't even have the CDs ordered yet, so it'd be a while. Because I only really need to have them to sell them at shows, because like nobody's really them. But if you want to, they will be there.
Nice.
But anything, I mean, a share is just as good, you know. Just to spread the word, get as many people to hear this as possible.
Definitely.
Would like if so if you're listening, you hear the album, you feel like people need to hear it, please.
Yes. Word of mouth
please
is
do share it.
the best way. It's free, and it means a lot more.
And that's all that matters to me, is that the people who hear it and love it hear it and love it.
Definitely. So until Friday, you've got Ironclad and Unnecessary, two
and
singles.
Psychology is out today.
Okay, and Psychology's out
on
today,
YouTube. So actually, right after, if you're watching this live, it'll be up on my YouTube channel, Timothy Morris Music. Which, by the way, Timothy Morris Music is my Facebook and Instagram.
Perfect.
So you can follow that. But it'll be up on my YouTube right after this, and if you're listening to it when the podcast comes out, the album's out anyway. So
there you go. All right, yeah, perfect. Definitely. In the meantime, I would encourage people to check out those 3 singles. Ironically, or maybe intentionally, the first, well, I guess First track is the name of the album. The next three are the three singles. So
Yeah, that was intentional. Yeah.
okay, perfect.
Because it's a whole thing on Into FM. When I did that one, I had a totally different track listing, and then I started showing it to people, and they were like, "No." It was mainly Dad who was the first one to be like, "I think we need to rearrange." To where it ended up being that the singles were first, but I like this order much better.
That's awesome.
That it ended up being better. But then I had that in mind from the beginning on Last Time to Broadway, so
Okay.
I didn't. So it wasn't like, oh no, my vision, or something like that.
Nice.
But it's, yeah, kind of hitting them with the catchier stuff first is never a bad idea.
Oh yeah, yeah. You got to front load them, get them invested, and then once they dig it, they'll stick it out. Yeah, and you've got an appropriately length album. It's not too long, not too short.
That was also intentional.
Yes.
Because Into FM was too long. Like
Sure.
I don't regret it. Like, because it is what it is.
Yeah.
We've talked about that. It's kind of a statement piece. But yeah, on this one, I was like, I want to make this one listenable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
I was almost like, this material is too important to me to have people not listen to it because it's too long.
Yeah.
So that was part of my mentality, but so it's kind of intentional, and I think I've also said, I mean, I don't know, because I've been alone so much lately. All my thoughts are very internal, and I'm not.
Yeah.
But I've been saying, like, I think this is the first record where I don't feel personally like I have to use my age as an excuse.
Right. Yeah. That's
like, to me, it's the first time I feel like I could have made this and not have been 16.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Yeah. When you reach a point where you don't feel the need to explain anything about what you've released, I mean, you're in the right spot.
So if you're listening,
no strings attached.
just let the music speak for itself.
Yeah.
And I swear I'm not an egomaniac.
I don't think that came across at all. So you're
Okay.
good. Yeah,
I'm like overly conscious about that.
No, you're good. I think it displays a certain amount of confidence, and you're excited in this stuff. I mean, I would hate for you to come on and just be like, yeah, I hate that song, but
I kind of hate that one, but I think other people like it.
Yeah. That seems far more egotistical, in my opinion.
That's the thing. I love this album, and I'm so happy that it's finally going to get heard by some people. Well, I cannot wait to promote it at shows, though.
Yes, definitely.
I just cannot wait to play gigs again.
Oh yeah.
I am losing my mind here.
Yes.
Because I think, just to be honest, I think these songs really come alive in concert, and and I think I can't wait to connect with people again, and I hope there's people out there that want to connect with me.
Yes, definitely. You said you're doing internet live broadcast.
Yeah, I actually have one today.
Do you have one planned up? You have one.
So if you like my page on Facebook, if you're listening to this live, then my live stream will be in about 2.5 hours.
Perfect.
3:00 Hawaiian time.
All right. I believe that's 8:00 Central. So.
Yeah, 8:00 Central, and just some acoustic stuff, new material, some Last Time to Broadway stuff, some newer stuff. Not Perfect. A lot of old stuff.
Yeah. Putting that in the past.
I barely do anything, like in my acoustic sets. I barely do anything from the first two albums because they just weren't written to be played that way.
Sure, yeah.
So it's like some of them work, but
yeah.
But yeah, so it's mostly just newer stuff and covers and stuff like that. So doing the acoustic thing's fun, and I just like playing music.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. If you want to come on sometime
great talking to you.
Let me know. Even if you don't have a new recording out, we can talk about anything else you want to. But next time you have
Sounds
an
great.
album drop, reach out. We'll bring you back on the show.
Next year sometime.
Yes, next year. Maybe if you, closer than 2 years, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm really excited about this, about all the new material too. Like
Awesome.
I said, I'm always on the next one. You know,
If you have a single or something, bring it our way.
Totally. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it really means a lot. I'm really glad you're digging the record.
Oh yeah.
Last Time Till Broadway out Friday.
That's right. All right. Yeah. Everybody check it out. On behalf of Beard Stroking, keep it nerdy. So.
And I'm Timothy Morris Music. Serious fun meets serious rock and roll.
Awesome. All right. We're going to have a video play us out here.
All right.